matter if you're buying a Scout Light, if you're buying the Evolution, which is going to be our higher end, highest end. There's a whole bunch of features on the A-liners that are standard across the board. So we don't cut any corners on construction or components just because it's a lower price point. So starting from the bottom, every A-liner comes standard on a Dexter rubber torsion axle. As far as we're concerned, the Dexter axle is the best one, and a rubber torsion axle is basically going to give you an independent suspension. So while you're traveling down the road, each wheel is acting independently of the other. So if you have a pothole on one side, you're just bouncing on one side. You're not bouncing the entire camper. So those axles are rated for 3,000 pounds on all of the 10 and 12 foot models. When you get up to the 15 foot models, the Expeditions and Evolutions, those are 3,500 pound gross vehicle weight axles. Electric brakes are standard across the board. Even though this camper only weighs 1,200 pounds, we get a lot of the smaller tow vehicles out there, so they need the stopping power as much as they need anything. So electric brakes are standard across the board. Aluminum rims are standard, including on your spare tire. So we don't give you a spare tire cover. If you want to give them a branded one, I'm sure you guys have got those. Otherwise, with the mag wheel on it, if you don't cover it, it still looks good. There's a new thing going on. All the tires at this point are radial tires. I know, probably old news at this point, but there used to be a point in time where people used bias ply tires because they were cheaper. Our VIA code now states you have to have radial tires. But if you see this chrome cap with the red marking on top, that indicates that there's balancing beads inside those tires. So the debate has been, should you balance your camper tires or not? Some people say yes, you have to. Some people say it's not necessary. At this point, what it is they use them in trucking, and it's been in trucking forever, and now they're just coming to the RV industry because they found a whole segment that they had not been taking advantage of. So what it is, it's a bag that we throw into the wheels inside the tires, and then as you're traveling down the road, the bag breaks open. There's thousands of pieces of tempered glass, it's tiny little beads of tempered glass, basically. And while you're driving down the road, centrifugal force spreads them out. If there's any imbalance inside the tire, they kind of gather in that area, and it's basically self-balancing the tires while you're going down the road. So I know Grand Design's using those, Brinkley, and us, and I'm sure some other people will be coming along, because I don't think it's a real expensive thing to do, but we started putting them in last fall. So balancing beads are now in there. The frame we talked about inside, but we'll definitely touch on it again. It's a 5-inch tubular steel frame, built by EHC is the name of the company. Again, we're a Pennsylvania manufacturer. They're local to us. A lot of times we can find things in Pennsylvania. Sometimes, being out of the Elkhart hub is a pain. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. On the frame, it's a really good one. We've got probably as nice, if not nicer frame than anybody's building in Elkhart. It's a 5-inch tubular steel frame, which sounds like a lot for campers that weigh between 1,200 and 2,500 pounds, but like we talked about inside, when you've got A-walls, roof panels, and potentially dormers on these units, you got a lot of moving parts. You want to keep that lower body as square and true as possible. So we overbuild the frame on purpose. That keeps the foundation of the camper rock solid, keeps all your parts on top in line, so you don't get daylight gaps and all that kind of stuff. The paint, like we talked about, is initially E-coated, so they're charging the frame with some electricity, which helps it give a better hold. They dip the frame, that coats the inside and the outside of the frame. The front tongue and the rear bumper, again, where we're moving around propane tanks, batteries, spare tires, potentially bike racks. They do a second layer of paint on the tongue and the bumper, so you got 2-layer double protection basically on the front and the back. The floorboard that sits on top of the frame is a 5/8" structure board. Obviously it's one piece, similar to what you would see in other folding campers or lightweight teardrops, but this flooring is called Performax 500 flooring. It's got a water resistant resin that's mixed into the board itself, penetrating all the way through, and then there's a water barrier that's actually laminated to the bottom of the board. So take Forest River's Flagstaff and Rockwood A-frames. They've got a 5/8" structure board. The difference is it doesn't have the water resistant resin, and they don't have a water barrier that's actually laminated to the bottom of the board. So the way this thing is, it's like a chipboard, right? It's like an OSB, but they orient the strands of wood in opposite directions, a 4-layer board. So inner 2 layers going this way, outer 2 going in the opposite direction, which increased rigidity, right? And before they orient those strands, they actually mix all that wood with a water resistant resin. So it's all the way through the floor. And then they have what they call an ovation layer. It's basically a layer of material that's thermally bonded, it's heated, and laminated to the bottom of the board. So your floor is never exposed to water or anything while you're headed down the road. We've been using that flooring for probably going on 20 years, and we've replaced, probably could count them on one hand, floors here in the last 20 years. So it's really good stuff. It's a little bit more money, but again, you guys know A-Liner's not the most inexpensive product out there, but if you start paying attention to the money that we're putting into frames, the flooring, and different components on the way up here, you'll see how easy it is to justify the price. Little stuff like metal wheel wells, you know, we could use plastic or something less robust inside there, but if you do have a blowout, hopefully you don't tear up the entire side of your camper, because we actually put metal wheel wells in there. All the side walls are vacuum bonded lamination, including your front and rear diamond plate. I would challenge you to walk around and push on the front of a travel trailer with fiberglass or any other folding camper out there and go push on that front wall, and it's just gonna be a fiberglass overlay that feels kind of soft. We could go the extra step and actually laminate front and rear walls, which I don't think anybody else is really doing, especially in a folding camper. Below the hinge, it's fiberglass exterior. There's foam insulation in the center, and the interior layer below the hinge is still Luan. So we've got a thin layer of wood inside, because that's where we're screwing cabinets in around these entry doors, and these cabinets are structural to a certain extent, obviously, so that gives us a better hold to screw into. We don't have the convenience of a 2-inch sidewall with a big structure in there. This is a 1 inch and an 1/8 roughly sidewall, which helps us stay as light as we are, but it doesn't allow us to put a ton of structure in there, which you don't need a ton of structure when your sidewall sections are, you know, 2 feet, 4 feet long. There is wood in the corners, obviously, where we're screwing sides to front and rear, so super solid up front, solid where they're laminated. The cabinets are holding better because the wood's in there. Once you go above the hinge, that interior layer then turns to Asdel, because we're not screwing anything into it. So fiberglass foam, Asdel, for any A-wall, roof panel, or dormer panel. Obviously, we know Asdel is 50% lighter than Luan, which keeps all the parts that you're physically picking up and down to set this camper up and down as light as possible, so we hit the widest section of customers. Obviously, our values as far as insulation is concerned, a little bit of sound dampening. If it's raining out there, you don't hear the rain hit the roof as much with the Asdel panels. So stuff like these corner caps even are all UV protected. Same thing for the wheel wells, corner caps. These won't fade or discolor over time. Anodized aluminum extrusions everywhere. It's a higher grade of aluminum, which looks better, and there's no maintenance over time. It's not painted where it's going to chip or crack after 10, 15 years, whatever the case may be. But again, we could buy a cheaper grade of aluminum for all this stuff, but we don't. It's maintenance free, looks great, and it'll always look great. Skylight windows are another one. These are Lexan, so they're virtually indestructible, where a plexiglass skylight is much more likely to break if something impacts it going down the road, or a tree branch falls out of a tree while you're camping, whatever catastrophe you can find. But anyway, we could buy a cheaper skylight, but these you'll never have to really worry about replacing or leaking because they're cracked. The way we do these is we route the hole out, we glue these things down and weight them for like 24 hours basically before the roof panel actually goes down the production line at the factory. We don't screw them down specifically, because now you're just adding extra holes into your roof panel, and you screw around in these corners, now you might actually increase the likelihood of the corner cracking. So Lexan is much more durable and resistant than the plexiglass alternative. The wind scoop in front of the fans, just so you know, that is just a wind scoop. Our fantastic fans are technically mounted backwards to how it would go into a travel trailer, but the way this is configured and the way that it has to operate, that's the way it has to be. So we put a little scoop there to make sure it doesn't open while you're traveling. And then your fantastic fan obviously is standard in all the models across the board. 4 stabilizer jacks. Again, we could buy a lighter, less heavy duty jack, but we actually just go buy the bell jacks. Makes this thing rock solid while you're camping. And again, we're not going to cut any corners cost-wise, just because there's a cheaper alternative out there. There's no point really doing that if it's going to cause you issues down the road. So in general, that's the rundown on construction. You guys got any questions on individual features or
below the below these, so you have wood. You have wood right here.
Yep.
Is the rest of the structure wood?
Nope, so there's basically just wood in the corners, and then the rest of the sidewalls are really just going to be perimeter aluminum framing.
Oh, okay.
And is really all it is for the most part, because again, you got, especially on models with 2 baggage doors, this wall's not very big, but most of the time you got a short section of sidewall, you've got an entry door, you've got a couple of baggage doors to contend with, and it doesn't leave a lot of opportunity for us to even get structure into these walls. So again, we've been constructing these with that level of structure forever, really, and has been no issue. It's one of those things I don't go around bragging to customers like, hey, we got a 1-inch sidewall, no structure in it. But if somebody calls and asks, or somebody comes in really get technical on, you say, no, the way these walls are so short, they are using heavy sections of wood in the corners where the sides and fronts and rears are meeting. You got aluminum perimeter framing everywhere else, but there isn't really reason to put a heavy structure in here, So unlike a travel trailer, it's going to have a 2-inch sidewall. So the biggest key to selling this product is putting it up and down. You have to demo this product. You have to make it look as easy as it can be. You just got to get a couple reps in to make sure that when you do it, it looks easy and that you can walk a customer through doing it. Because when I'm at shows, I get people who come in, they're just been looking at them online. They've never had the opportunity to put one up and down. They think it looks easy online, but they don't think they can do it. So what I do is I go through and do it once, show them how it goes up and down, and I have them actually put their hands on it and do it themselves. And when they push that roof panel up and it locks into the top, it comes from thinking about it to reality. Like now I'm doing this. I can do this and I'm going camping. So first step is get everything in here below the hinge line on either side, because the side walls, the A walls are going to have to fold in. So stove tops, faucets, cushions, everything needs to fold down. And then it's just a matter of 2 latches on each side wall to release those, and we'll do the roof panel last. Got 2 latches on this side wall, releases the rear wall, rested on the countertop. It's literally 1-hand light. Last latch on this side, and you take the top half of the door, and you just lay this wall right down, usually while you're standing in the doorway. And actually, I'm retraining myself, because I had historically just been pulling these down by grabbing the rear roof panel. You can do that, and it's effective enough. Some of the biggest models with the dormers, you're going to have to do that. But if you get in the habit of pushing this front roof panel just to release the rear one so that it comes out evenly, you step out, top and bottom half of the door closes, and then pull the roof panel down the rest of the way. You got 1 latch on each side, and you're ready to go. I mean, what happens is if you pull that roof panel down from outside enough times, the foam seal that's on top of that rear roof panel will want to start to roll up because it just comes out unevenly. So, on the way back up, undo your latches, you can see the springs. There's a spring built into all 4 corners, and that's really what your lift mechanism is. That starts to help the unit up on its own. I always start with the front roof panel and work my way to the back. Push it up as high as you can. Finish it at the back side. You are going to get questions about water, obviously. With all the moving parts, people are going to ask you about water leaks and everything else. And then I just lately have been really blatant about it at shows, especially. I said, this has some moving parts. I said, but look at that trailer over there with 4 slide outs on it. I said, there's as many moving parts on anything as there is this, really, if you think about it. So there's as many opportunities for water to get into a rectangle as there is this triangle. But the upside is, this is the cap of your unit right here. This is the actual peak of the unit. The rubber seal that's inside this cap, this channel, is where the rear roof panel is going to lock into. So you're actually going to be capped and sealed from the top. Your rear roof panel locks in there, and it's not just 2 walls leaning together hoping to have the right amount of pressure to keep water out. So, and all the way up. You hear it lock into that channel at the top. Step back in. Foot falls up. that's it. Top half of the door latches together. This is your high wind kit. This is the travel position. When you take this clip off, if you can get it off, and swing this to the rear bracket, and pin this in. Now you're locking your front and rear roof panels together. So say you were set up, you get a big storm blows in, and the wind's blowing from the right angle, which is usually from behind the unit. You could get a little bit of a movement or chattering on the worst days. With this high wind kit engaged, which is on both sides, you will have no movement or chattering in any way. Those panels are rock solid at this point. So again, nice safety feature to have. It's also a lift assist. It doesn't matter so much usually on these Scout lights that are so small, but on a bigger unit that people might not be able to reach high enough to push it up, if this were folded down, you're starting from down here and you're pushing the roof panel up, and then you can lock it in for while you're actually stable or stationary. So we just saw a Scout light, Ranger 12. That's another Ranger 12 with a front dormer on it there. We're skipping the Classic for the time being, but this Expedition will be the exact same equipment as far as the interior sink, stove, refrigerator, microwave, all that kind of stuff. Again, the Expedition being 3 feet longer, 6 inches wider, and this is where the lower sidewalls are 4 inches taller, so you can kind of see already a little bit taller here, which gives you taller, closer to residential style cabinets on the inside. And then the extra length provides the cabinet where your cassette toilet goes. This one, because of the extra width, being 6 inches wider than a Classic or a Ranger 12, that's how you get the true 60 by 80 queen bed in the back. And then is everybody familiar with how the cassette toilet actually operates?
Just like a new camp, right?
Yeah, the whole cartridge pulls right out. You guys are pretty familiar with that? Okay. Sometimes a lot of dealers don't have anything else that has a cassette toilet. Yeah, so this is gonna be our biggest size, 15-foot living space on an 18-foot frame. Once you get to the larger size, that's where the axles bump up to 3,500 pound gross vehicle weight. 3 feet longer, 6 inches wider, lower sidewalls are 4 inches taller. So bigger in every single dimension. You do get more storage with the extra length. You get more cabinets. You can see that the fridge in here is bigger than the one that was in the Ranger 12. You get the glass covered sink and stove versus the plastic sink and the metal covered stove. You got pick up a microwave in the Expedition and the cassette toilet, and the AC heat pump is standard. So instead of having the outside side mount AC, we go with the heat pump in these, and that's where you get the grab handle of the door also.